the Niners play Sunday Night Football. So unfortunately, we're not going to get, the Monday night game. You always get like a Steve Young appearance. But Steve Young went on KNBR and talked about Trey last week. And he said a number of things, including this. He's awesomely raw. There's some stuff, but, it's moving very quickly. Quarterback is about coming to a place where no matter how crazy, how intense, you quiet your mind. When your mind is quiet, you own the data. You own the moment. Now, it's not something you can keep doing, running the football with him. Clearly, that was an effort to get him in the mix, which is obvious to me that he's not trusted, right? He's young, first game. Look, when I say not trusted, people are going to overreact. What rookie in his first start is trusted? What I'm saying is I don't want to put him in a spot where I get him on the run all the time and he's almost too comfortable. I'm paraphrasing now. He doesn't want him constantly just not even looking at receivers and pulling down the ball down to run. In terms of getting to a place of comfort, he said it's a wonderful place to get. But until you get there, you're always trying to manage your brain being overwhelmed with data while trying to keep up running from play to play and the pressure of it all. We're glad you're watching our video. Give it a like and subscribe to this channel.
Yep, 50% of you are not subscribed. So if you're watching and you like it, subscribe. Also, check out the podcast below in the description.
We're sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Yes, we are. Number 1 vodka in America. What was the word you used right there?
He said, he said something about trust and overwhelm. You don't want to be your brain overwhelmed with data. Yeah. He must have said it nice, though.
Yeah. Maybe it's just easier for him to say that stuff. People
go, is Steve Young.
He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, it's just what we saw. Like, he had a lot going on. Where I hesitate, the first thing he said was his talent or something is like excitingly raw or something.
Awesomely raw.
Where I just struggle, and I think a lot of people, I guess these other shows that people listen to our show, listen to that said we were too negative. Like, I just don't anoint that yet because I've been wrong so many times by doing that at the quarterback position. Like, it's why we didn't jump off the Ruggs bandwagon. It's like, I've seen enough. Like, I'm sticking with quarterback. It is so difficult just because you can run around or have a strong arm. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that much to become a great player, which I think we all want him to become. Like, this show wants Trey Lance to be sweet. I would love to be like, oh, what do you get to do 17 times a year? I don't know, watch Josh Allen 2.0? Like, that seems fun. You know what's cool? Bills fans right now, ask them if they're having a good time. They are. Like, ask the Chiefs fans what the last 4 years have been like. Ask the Ravens what the transition was from Flacco to Lamar, how that's been going. Like, that's what we all want. And as two people that consume every single Niner snap and then have to talk about it, like, I want the guy to be remarkable. But it's just a long way to go. And I don't think we ever did this, but I remember we wanted to do it and kept getting pushed back. Like, Kyle got shit on. And listen, I've been critical of Kyle. Just when I say critical, like, it just feels like he's off. I don't really even know how to quantify it. Just his rhythm's off. And he's also playing with Jimmy Average and a rookie quarterback who is rawer than the day is long. But, like, what Steve just kind of verbalized is that Kyle went into that game thinking, my quarterback doesn't really know what's going on. Because no one would, as a 21-year-old who's played one game for like 2 years playing the NFL. You know what turns out? That team that he had to start against is remarkable. They're awesome. Like, they're not just like, oh, the Cardinals are 6-0. It's like they're kicking people's ass. They are sweet.
You and I had considered taking the Browns this week against the Cardinals in our lock of the week, and it was clear very early we made the right decision not doing that.
Well, their head coach test positive, who's also their play caller. If you didn't know, like, if it wasn't public story, it never came out, and you weren't really paying attention, you just been like, God, Cliff Kingsbury just kicked the Browns' ass, yeah. Right?
Wait, it was Vance Joseph?
And it just didn't matter. I mean, their team is stacked. And Trey, I guess I didn't anoint, like, I assume the guy had competitive character. I guess you have to learn by watching the guy play, but, like, all the stuff that they had studied on the guy, like, that was not the issue. It's just going to be basic things of making throws, which it's going to be hard for Kyle just to go like, let's go 3-4 wide and just let Trey just sling the pill. Like, I don't think Kyle is going to go, he's ready, because I don't think he is. So he has to run this more of an elementary school offense, which then everyone starts freaking out. It's like, why are you running quarterback power? Because Kyle doesn't really think he can do anything else. Or not that he can't.
And by the way, not all of those. This is why I didn't buy the Jimmy Garoppolo conspiracy theory on the calf, is because you don't force a player out of a game and then come out of the locker room and run 4 straight times with him like they did with Trey Lance when he came in for the second half of that game.
I'd have to ask people in the NFL how impossible that would even be to do conspiracy theories like with
Oh, well,
injuries
there's
on
also that.
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because I do believe them sometimes, but it's like, is that
Sure.
even possible? Like Trey Lance, they fake a knee sprain? Because I mean, listen, I believe that kind of because I didn't see him get
You
injured.
actually
He
said to
looks
me
fine.
earlier today, if I could say it before you say it on the show, would they have let him go to Oracle Park on a sprained knee?
Well,
It's
you
like,
wouldn't
well,
let him go walk around on a sprained knee.
depends how sprained the knee is, right? A
Well, yeah, I
light
don't think you.
sprain and a real sprain.
Well,
Crutch.
that's why
There's like
I
crutches sprains, and there's just like not 100% sprains.
right now, recording this Sunday night, who do you expect if they're both healthy, which I think I'm going to assume they're both good to go this week? Is Trey Lance the quarterback or is Jimmy Garoppolo the quarterback?
I think Trey Lance is the quarterback.
I do too. And the game that you see Trey Lance play against the Colts, do you think it's going to look more like it did last week in terms of the offense, or do you think it's going to be like all of a sudden, God, they're just letting him rip?
I think it'll look more like that one that we just
And
watched.
I think if they were to lose, the freak out would be huge. But I understand it where Kyle's coming from because Steve just said when you have a guy that say that quote one more time. How do you define
awesomely raw?
Awesomely raw. It's hard to just let's let him throw 48 times a game, especially when one of his knocks right now is touched a little off with his loopy release, or you're trying to play around it, but his throwing power is something that separates him as a player, right? Like his just pure arm strength it's pretty eye-opening. Just watch him just let it rip. He just doesn't always know where it's going.
I think so. Paul in the stream made a good point earlier. At some point, you are bringing an inexperienced Trey Lance into a game. That's happening, right? The question is when. When are you doing it?
Well, they just did it.
And why wait? Yeah, well, they just did it, but they're going to do it. The next time he plays, he's still inexperienced Trey Lance. He's not suddenly experienced Trey Lance after 6 quarters of football, right?
Well, let's say Monday morning, Kyle, or maybe it doesn't happen till Wednesday. It gets announced they're both healthy, but Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start. I think people would be very, very mad at Kyle.
Well, yeah, I mean, they would. I do kind of wonder, Kyle, just go back to the draft. Kyle always said, why would I tell anybody what I'm doing if I don't have to tell anybody what I'm doing? It would not shock me if Jimmy is like doing the starting quarterback interview on Wednesday, but he's not the starting quarterback on Sunday night. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. If
like, you're not obligated.
Rules. It's a pretty big game Sunday, guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also just organization. Like, okay, is DeForest Buckner going to end up with a big game? And, there's a lot going on for them. We'll talk this week, I think, about what it's going to take to make the playoffs in the NFC, but they're 2-3.
Well, they're also playing a team who's, depending on what happens in the Monday night game, kind of going to be playing for their season. They're 2-4, the Colts. So if you go 2-5, you're not making the playoffs in the AFC, right? Like their season is somewhat on the line. Right? I mean, it's a huge game for them.
Yeah.
It's big for the Niners, but the Colts season would be done. 2-5? That's over. So you're going to get a team throwing their best shot, and they do have good players on defense. That is an area that just the last couple years, I know this year's been kind of a struggle. I honestly, I saw Kevin Clark tweeted today. He's like, you could convince me that the Colts-Titans game, or I mean the Colts-Texan game, I don't even know it exists. I didn't see a highlight. I didn't see one snap. I didn't even know it was on television. You could have convinced me that was the game before the European game. They just played that thing at 4 a.m. I'm like, yeah, probably. But they beat the shit out of the Texans, who were terrible. Wentz is actually playing.
T.Y. Hilton came back.
Got hurt, though.
I know, but I think it's a quad. They said it's not that big of a deal. But.
You see, he actually did something I saw this week. He was in a press conference and kind of getting emotional. He's like, I almost retired this offseason because of the injuries. And then he laughed. He's like, the first guy I reached out to, probably shouldn't say this, was Andrew. But Andrew helped talk him into staying and keep playing. But they're a team that they're better than their record. If I told you right now the Colts, instead of 2-4, they could be 4-2. It's not inconceivable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. I think they're more difficult to beat than you would think from their record. We'll see if Carson Wentz is over the balance of his career like a 10-11 win quarterback.
Well, but I'm just saying the last 2 weeks he's been really good. He was good against the Ravens. It was his best game in 2 years. And then, I mean, again, didn't see one snap of this playing the Texans. Well, I mean, he went 11-20 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Today didn't even count.
Well, Jonathan Taylor ran for 145.
He did beat them last year, though, with the Eagles.
Yes, with a bad team.
Yeah.
But-
Nick Mullins threw 2 of the worst interceptions you'll ever see in that game.
But you know what? Like, this goes back to Trey. To go back to Trey for a moment, is check out the link below. Go to liquidiv.com. Use the code HAM for 25% off. Get your hydration on.
Yes. You want to gamble? MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM, and the number 1 has you covered. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Go place a bet.
Usually with a young quarterback who's really talented, before they're fully ready to just be the guy and do everything that you eventually want your offense to do, you do get moments out of them. And I think that's something with Trey we haven't talked about much. It's with his talent level, you are bound to get a couple of moments, right? Even through whatever other trade-offs there are. And there were some of those in the game, more so with his legs. But I do expect you're going to get some of that with him the more he plays, where maybe you're not getting 68% completion percentage, right? Like you want, or 67 or 66 like you want right away, and 300 yards. But maybe you're getting enough solid play and then a couple of throws here or there. Somebody tweeted, I don't remember who it was today. Now he ended up throwing for 450 some yards. Oh, it was, you know who it was? It was Eric Crocker. I saw tweeted about Dak. He's like, his arm is fine until he has to make that one throw that it's just not fine enough to make. I don't think I'm paraphrasing. Like, his arm's good enough, except for that one throw that you need him to make.
Yeah, he doesn't have an elite arm.
Now, in the end, they won the game, and he threw for 450, and I might have to take back some of what I said about Mike McCarthy by the end of this year. But the point is, Trey does
like 15-2, bitches.
I know. Remember when Abram wanted to fire me after week 1, 2020 against the Rams?
Well, what if they get the 1 seed guy?
Trey does have that arm. So, you might get a play or two a game that makes you go, whoa, that's awesomely raw.
Now, but this is back to the quarterback thing. Playing quarterback, what Dak has right now, and he's playing, he's never been better, and he's been really good. His accuracy is pretty elite. And his accuracy, his touch, his feel for, that's like, so I would, like right now, if you could just morph Trey to become Dak Prescott, or would you just hope that he becomes what his physical attributes in the Josh Allen? You would just make him Dak. Right?
You're saying if I came to you as the football god and said, all right, I'll give you Dak Prescott right now, or you can roll the dice and he might be like Josh Allen.
I'm even saying Trey Lance stays Trey Lance, but his arm's not quite as powerful. He just turns into Dak. Right? Or you can just risk it and see if you can hit
for the biscuit and see if you can get Josh.
Because ultimately, Dak, no one, and he's awesome, no one will ever be like, yeah, he's more talented than Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, Lamar, right?
Right.
They just won't. Hell, even Trey, it'll never go, he's got a better arm than Trey Lance. But that you gotta turn that in. Kaepernick, once upon a time, he's still, in my mind, made the greatest throw I've ever seen. Oh. It was a rope to Vernon Davis, I think against Tampa, that was like 75 yards on a string. Like, I don't think any human being in the league right now, maybe Josh Allen, could make the throw. What everyone always said about Jamarcus's pro day, it was like that, but in a real NFL game. It was like
that was better than the 1 foot running towards the line of scrimmage throw to Anquan in the back of the end zone at Buffalo Wild Wings. Haberman and Middlecoff watched it.
Well, do you remember that Earl Thomas jumped up and it went right through his hand?
Like hit it. Yes, not between his hands, but through his one hand.
Given that was
the
NFC Championship game, that's probably his most impressive throw. But like part of like really impressive throws, like Rodgers made $1 million over his career. He also makes all these just other mundane, easy ones, right?
Yeah.
Like part of Rodgers,
which is most of the throws you make.
Yeah, you watch him today. A lot of it's just like he's cool with. We were texting about Derek Carr today. Like, sometimes the Raiders aren't like early in the game. You're like, this is kind of boring. And Derek. And this is a balance, and you hear these older quarterbacks talking about it, where you kind of come to grips with, when you have a lot of talent, of being like, yeah, I'll dump it down this drive, all drive long. And if we go, if we don't get past the 50-yard line, I'm not going to turn it over. And I'm feeling the game out. And then as the game goes on, I can take my shots. And that is the maturation process, I think, for any good quarterback. I looked up a couple times, and Mahomes, one went through Tyreek's hands, but he still does some things like, whoa there, Patrick.
Well, he's got
a bunch of picks.
Did he throw a pick today?
He threw 2. Now, one was not his fault.
So does he have 8 now?
He definitely has more than he's on a pace for like 20.
Yeah, which he's normally like a 12 or 14 guy, right?
Yeah. Now, sometimes it just works out. Remember, was it last year, PFF? The one stat that I do like, because I always love this, like, Middlecoff, PFF has Crosby. Like you said, it's just a random guy who fucking might have gone to, like, Texas State, who loved football, just jotting down. No different than you DMing me that, or no different than me and Guy if we just created a strategy. I'm not talking shit about him, but that's the reality. They're just giving a guy an arbitrary grade by an individual who was just 28-year-old from Delaware. Good for that guy for, getting in the sports business, but let's not act like, he wasn't trained by Ernie Accorsi in the scouting community.
Yeah, it came up. We were talking about it the other day because I had a college coach tell me that the PFF numbers that they get sometimes are way off because they'll have an offensive lineman. Like they had graded an offensive lineman with 1 pressure allowed, but PFF had 6. And they're like, they didn't know. They're like, I think they're giving them pressures on screenplays. They couldn't figure it out. But yeah, people grade things differently.
Well, I was in the car driving back from the Valley today, and I didn't get home till like 10:30. So that first 30-minute window, I went to Sirius XM in 88. What 88 with the NFL channel, it actually is pretty cool on NFL game days, is just the red zone, but radio calls. So there's like going live to the Chiefs, going live to the Rams, and it's just the radio voice of that team who's ever on like the offensive, right? Who's about to do something cool. It's pretty sweet, And they go to the Rams game, and it's JB Long. And JB dropped, and it's any announcer would, but he was like, they put some guy in, and he's like, this guy was the best run blocking tackle in the draft. Or he made a comment like that. And I understand using that, but I'm sure he got that from PFF, right? Just as every announcer would get these printouts because it's good shit to use. But that is just someone at PFF, some individual gave that guy that grade. Like there's a chance that if I went to like John Schneider or Les Snead and I say, did you guys have this guy as the top run blocking tackle? No, he's like, no, we had him like top 5, but he wasn't the best.
You might have got that stat from Les Snead. Might have been their own internal grade.
No, he might. I think he was talking about the opponent.
Oh, gotcha.
But but it clicked because I'd been thinking about PFF. We had that conversation.
By the way, Mahomes last year 6 interceptions. The year before 5. The year before 12.
But I'm pretty sure last year it was either him or Allen or maybe both of them. Didn't he throw a bunch of interceptable passes?
Well, Allen had I remember watching this tape of 30 interceptable balls. I mean, that was too high, but for Josh Allen. Maybe Mahomes did too, but I said Mahomes is a 12 interception guy, but he's not. He's a 6 interception guy historically. The last 2 years he has 11 combined. Andre on YouTube says he has 15 in his last 15 games.
When I watch Mahomes, he doesn't feel like a 5 or 6 interception guy.
He does not.
He feels like a 42 and 12 guy.
Yes,
doesn't he?
Yes, he does
and there's
not.
Nothing wrong with that. I can live with 45 and 12. I mean, Tom Brady's about to be. Tom Brady might throw 50 touchdowns.
Yeah, I do know
50 touchdowns at 44. 50.